do a simple demo. So then we can try why we want to share the data. See, moving on to the next topic, how is the data shared between components? So what they are trying to say, how to share the data between one component to another component. So as of now, we have not shared the data. I created one component, and between component, from my DOM to TypeScript and TypeScript component to DOM, we just passed and fetched the data. So let's assume, please pay attention. So let's assume we are creating the next component. So inside source app, let me create another component. So ng gc. Yeah, for in my machine, I have to use npx. npx ng gc. Shall I create my component 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So let me, I will not touch this my component 1. Let me work between 2 and 3. Then I will come back to component 1. All right. So let me create component 3. Imagine component 2 is a parent component. Component 3 is a child component. So for next topic, I'm not going to touch my component 1. I'm going to work between component 2 and component 3. And the data is going to pass between component 2 and 3. So the data shared between one component and another component. So as I said, you can take component 2 and component 3. So from one component, from where you are going to share, it is called as parent. Where you are going to get is called as child. Listen carefully. If you are passing the data from parent to child, you can done with the help of input. You are going to capture whatever the thing passed from parent, you are capturing in child through input. And from parent to child, what will happen? What type of binding will happen between parent to child? So we can do property binding. I can pass the data, property, some property value I can pass. Whereas from child to parent, we can do only event binding. So, and then you will capture that via output. Here you will pass output, there you will capture as an input. So you can do that with the help of directive. We started with ng for, ng if. Now 2 more directive, input and output. Here we will pass as an input, there, sorry, output, there we will capture as an input. We can do property binding between parent to child, child to parent, event binding. So I will do a simple demo, then I will come back to the topic. So my component 1. And what is the purpose of having different component and sharing the data? All right. So I have created my component 2 and 3. At input and output gives the child component way to communicate with parent. So we will give output and input. So input allows parent to update the data to child. Output allows the child to send the data to parent component. So we will use input first, then we will try on output. So input decorator in a child component or directive signifies the property can receive the value from parent. I will repeat again. I'm having component 2 and component 3. Imagine like component 2 is a parent component. So I want to send the data. As you remember property binding, I am sending the data. Please look into the diagram. From parent to child, I am sending the data property. So that can be captured in my child with the help of at input decorator. Whereas, so if you are calling child in your parent, you will call the respective tag child component name followed with the target name and your item property from the parent, and you will pass via property binding. That is why we are using square bracket, and you will give a unique key. So this key you will capture in your child with the help of at input. So if I have two components, the data will be passed from one component to another component. Wherever you are calling the selector name of the child component, you will use the property. It can be employee, product, or simple message, and you will be passing to your property binding. So use property binding and you can give a unique key. So by using that key in your target, in your child component, you will use @input decorator and you will call item. So that whatever the value in item of parent property will be captured in your child. So whatever we discussed in theory, let's try the same. All right. So as of now, I'm not going to use comp1. See here, HTML index.html is calling app root. In app component.html, what we are calling? The component one which I created. So I'm not going to call component one. I'm going to call component two. So what would be the output? So I'll be getting component two work, some paragraph message which is there in my component one. So please pay attention. From my app root component, I'm calling component two. So in component one only, all those discussion we made. All right, please pay attention. In component two, what we need to call? So my component one. So please pay H2. My component two works inside parent component. So I will call the same in my child. So let me call H2 inside child.
Ma'am, can you do it little bit slow?
So do I want to repeat or you have understood? I have created two components.
Ma'am, you are doing too fast, ma'am.
Dear all, if you have understood, it's fine. If you have commented, I'll go slow. Lot more are there. I thought you will able to map. Okay, fine. Listen. So this topic, I'll go a little bit slow and the actual implementation will happen in comp one. To have simple hello world kind of a demo, let me go for component 3 and component 2 and 3. So I'll repeat step 1. I created two components. Is that clear? So I created my comp 2 and comp 3. So comp 1, I am making it as parent. Comp 3, I am making it as child. One second. Yes, guys. So I have created two component 2 and 3. I'm going to make component 2 as parent, component 3 as child. Sometime back in the index page. So by default, index page will call your root component. What we did in the morning in our root component, that is app component.html, we called component 1. That is the reason we are getting the output of whatever we tried with one way, two way, all the details, student, employee, product. So now instead of 1, I called what? My parent component in my app component.html. Shall I proceed from here?
Yes, ma'am.
Instead of calling component 1, I just called component 2, so that I will get only the output of component 2 here.
What if we call both at the same time?
No, repeat.
And what if we call comp1 and comp2 at the same time?
No problem. So see here, I'm doing all three. Wait. So I'm calling comp1, comp2, and comp3. What will happen? Will it works? Guys, will it works?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This is
ma'am.
our topic.
Yes, ma'am.
So whenever if you are making changes in comp1, only this will get refreshed, not the entire page. So if you execute the first two lines, if this is inside root component, first line inside root component, and we are calling comp2, which is parent, and then comp3 child, and comp1, you can see a big output. All the output we retrieved because of comp1. As of now, you can continue with comp1. Since comp1 we handled so many things, I thought let's not use for some time.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna to call child. I'm gonna to call parent alone. From parent, we are gonna to call child. And what was the topic? So the topic was yeah, we are gonna to share the data between two components. So according to my case, I have my component 2. So if I share data between component 2 to component 3, this is my parent and this is child. So in my parent, I will call component 3 and I will pass some key attribute. So that key I need to capture by input annotation. Here decorator. So here I will call my component 3 and then I will pass some, so let's assume key in the form of property. So I will pass some data. So this data you can capture using at input K1. For example, data 1 is equal to K1. Let me do a simple demo. So in comp2, we are calling comp3 by passing a data via property binding K1. Assume like it's a key. This key I can capture in my component 3 by placing an annotation what? At input. Shall we try the same? Take time, analyze. I'll do a simple demo. Just give me the sign off. Whatever we discussed in theory, we will do with simple demo. Shall I?
Can you repeat?
The topic is data shared between component. Here I created my component 2 and component 3. So component 2, from component 2, I'm going to pass the data to component 3. If it is, we will call component 2 as parent and component 3 as child.
So
So
the
your
component
parent-
which is the component which is passing the data is parent component.
Correct. The component which is passing the data is parent. In your parent, you will call child and you will pass the data using a property binding. And in child, you will capture the data using at input annotation. Shall we try the same with simple demo?
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever I said theory, as I said, let's do a simple demo. Then we will do a complex demo on my comp1. All right. So HTML is calling AppRoot. AppRoot is calling my comp2. So go to my comp2 HTML. I have some message and here we are calling my comp3. So from parent we are calling child. So along with child I am passing some data in the form of property binding. Do we have data? As of now, I don't have data. That is why it is throwing error. Where we will declare a data?
Comp2.
Your TypeScript code. Right?
.ts.
.ts. So go to your class. This is a class. So later we will come to know what is the difference between constructor and ng on init and why it is implementing on init interface. Okay. So data is equal to what I will give. So I will give July. What is the date? July 19, 2022. Some data I'm giving. Will it be okay? So I'm going to pass the data from parent to child. So I'm having the data. It can be any data. So later we will pass product details also. So this is my data. I am passing this data from parent to child through this key. Why it is throwing an error? Okay, there we will capture it.
I mean, might is not showing error.
Should not throw. Cannot bind K1. It is not known property. Okay, let's go to K3 and we will add the property. We'll go to component 3. I'll complete it, then let's see. So now go to component 3, child component. In parent component, I have this data. Data I am passing with my key K1. So let me go to my child. What is the annotation we need to use?
Input.
At input. At input annotation, capital input. It should work. K1 belongs to the data type, any type. As of now, I'm not going to place any type. Okay, I'm sorry. It should come with open close. Now go and check. In component 3, we used at input. Try to use this decorator with open close parenthesis. I have retrieved K1. Now, can you see the error disappears? All right. So I passed the data July 90, 2022 from component to parent to child via my property binding, and we have captured the same using input. Shall I display in my label of component 3? Shall we take this K1 and we can display in component 3?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Possible. Wait. So H3, message from parent. K1, right? That's all. You can use direct interpolation or you can use property binding also. Let me check. So inside root, this is parent component. Parent component is calling child. Along with that, it is passing the data July 90, 2022. So why we want to do this? Okay, before that, please understand this simple demo. Then we will discuss on why we want to go for such concept. Or you do one thing. In parent component, you have text box. Some message. You give a button click and then pass to your child. Will it works? That is also possible. Let's try. Shall we do the reverse?
Reverse things
Reverse means you tell me what is reverse. Just
from child to parent.
story
Child to
over.
parent.
From child to parent. So here K1 has been passed from parent to child and we captured that with ART input. And I'm displaying. The data has been passed through my property binding. Okay, I'll complete a simple demo on the reverse and then you can give a try. And then we will try the same for our, whatever I did, it's there in the slide. Parent to child. So child select our name. So property from parent, you need to bind with the key. So that key, you can use it as a unique key along with your ART input. ART input decorator in a child component or directive signifies the property can receives the value from parent. This is what we did. Here it is parent child. I tried with my component 2 and 3. Okay. I would like to remind one another point. We done with the first half. Parent to child. You can do property binding. Here I done a property K1, which is data. Whereas the other one, child to parent, what we can do? Only. Can you look into the diagram from child to parent? What we can do? We can pass the data, but event binding. I can pass, but I should do any event, button, click event or any other. Okay, let's get into theory and then one small demo. So child to parent, we need to use output decorator. ART output decorator in child component or directive allows data to flow from child to parent. Child component use ART output property. So in child only we will use ART input, in child only we will use ART output. So ART output is used to raise an event. We can do only event binding to notify the parent of the change. Whatever the changes I want to make it on parent, in order to notify, we will use ART output event. So event emitter is mandatory. I need to emit some events. So I'll repeat again, in order to allow the data to flow from child to parent. How it will happen? Only after raising an event. And that event can be raised with annotation ART output. To raise an event, ART annotation must have type of event emitter. What type of event I'm going to emit? And by the way, this event emitter should be imported under @Angular/code. So on top of your child, you should use import event emitter from @Angular code. So this is mandatory import. So parent to child, you will use @output. Look into the syntax. So @app input output. This is my child selector. I will use key and its value. This is an event emitter. This happens with the previous. And now I need to trigger an event. What event I'm triggering here? Some time back I used square bracket. Now you use square parenthesis. When you use square parenthesis, it means what is the difference between square parenthesis and square bracket?
Property binding and event binding.
This is property binding and this is
Event binding.
event binding. I have been repeating certain things from morning. I know, I can understand it's difficult. You take this HTML. Can you find the difference between 8th line? Here I used property is disabled, property has been binded. Whereas if you take this button, so click has been enclosed within
Event.
Square parenthesis. Yeah. So click is also an attribute of button, and disabled is also an attribute of button. But how we are using? Here it is square bracket, here it is parenthesis. So if it is parenthesis, it is event. I'm going to bind with the function fun1. Here I'm going to bind with the property is label. It will return true, false, or any value. Hello, hi, bye, some value. So sometime back we handled the square bracket. Key 1. You remember I used K1. So just to indicate a key. Now we need to use parenthesis for an event. And this event will go to this method and corresponding event will be passed as a parameter. Shall we try the same using simple demo? Overloaded. Guys, feeling overloaded?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I can understand, but this is the last topic. We'll complete sharing the data. We already done with parent to child. Now we will try child to parent. And we have one more topic. We can have it on tomorrow. What was that? Publishing. All right, this publishing alone we can discuss on tomorrow. So this is the syntax. I will show you in the demo. Then I will come back to the theory. Can you see and observe something on the slide? What we are doing?
Share the data.
We are
Share
sharing
from one component to other component.
So I have, imagine like we just made component 2 as parent and we have component 3. Now if imagine like component 4 has been created. So component 4 and component 3 will be the child. So I can able to pass the data between parent to child and child to parent. Then the next discussion is data passing between child to child. Okay, this child to child, the sibling classes, sibling component data passing we can discuss on tomorrow. Let me finish this child to parent. For component 3 and 2, still we have some discussion to be made on component 1. All right. So let me go to component 3. Priya, you there? Priya?
yes, ma'am.
So as per our demo, component 3 is parent or child?
Child,
Child or parent?
child,
Child. So child or parent? I know my question is stupidity to the core.
Ma'am, child,
It's a child component.
because it is accepting the input.
We called component 3 in component 2. All right. So let's take component 3. What I can do?
Man, we should create component for.
No. We will discuss that on tomorrow.
Okay. Okay.
Child, sibling to sibling.
Okay.
I'm thinking what sample I can give here. All right. So let me give some function. And I'm giving the function name as child function. Child function 1, which is taking some message. What I can give? Angular child to parent demo. And let me pass this message. Or I will pause. Visualize it. And okay, again, I'll go back to the diagram, what we discussed. So from child, if I want to pass some data to parent, what binding is mandatory? I need to handle what? Event. So in order to trigger an event, I am adding a button. So in your component 3, so let me add a button. So button, click, let me call that to child function 1, data to parent. Save all. Child fun 1. Okay, it is passing. So we need to pass some string. All right. Enter message. Input type is equal to text. And then I'm giving ID is equal to T1. Let me pass. For this. I cannot pass directly in G dot. Give me 1 minute. I cannot pass.
No, directly I think we can't pass.
I cannot pass. So I can. What
You
I
can pass the event and then event.target.t1. Can you try? Then you cannot call the function with the parameter.
So I thought let's give a message.
Mhm.
See, I'll tell you guys the idea behind us. I have a text box, enter message. Whatever the message I'm giving on this text box, when I click a button from child, where it has to go?
To parent.
1
Parent, I thought. And by the way, I am in component 3. Component 3 child. In child, I'm gonna to get some data, some message on my text box. And that data I am passing. You can directly pass message also. I thought let's try this. Or you can give T1. Dot T1 dot
Ma'am, after is equal to double quotes are there.
Hashtag T1 means ID, right?
Let it be on hold. I'm not passing any value as of now. Go to component 3. No message. I'm just giving some data. So when I click button, the event will be triggered. Event emitter function is child fun1, and this child fun1 is holding this message. All right. So we have few more steps to complete. What are all the remaining 2 steps we need to do? Please look into the slide. 2 more steps, final steps.
Output.
2 things. One is you need to use art output, and what is one more thing?
Event emitter.
Event emitter. You need to import event emitter class, which is available under Angular core. All right. So I have a message. This message will be triggered when I click child fun1. And what we need to import? Event emitter. Okay. I need to pass this to output. So use output. Shall I give key to? I'm giving key to is equal to new event emitter of just passing the string. I'll complete it. Give me 1 minute time. I have used a button. When I'm clicking a button, it will trigger my function, and the function is holding some message. The time being, I'm using some string message. I need to pass this string message. I'm creating an event emitter object as key2 just for your identification. Let me capture the same in my component 2, which is my parent component. So H3 data from child. App hyphen my component. Here I am calling K2, which is calling what function? It should go to child fun of the respective event. Wait. I'll simply pass this message. I think it works. Give me 1 minute time. So it is calling to child function 1, which is an emitter. It's returning a string. But what string it is returning? Child data colon string. One second. Debit request cross of item. So whenever if I click, it is what it be called function. And I should have at output. So some item to new emitter of key to let me use the same. Apart from that, emits an event containing the given value. Let me give my own value. Sending data to parent. In my component, Everything is correct. Everything is correct, but I'm not getting the output.
Ma'am, can you just go to the slides where this function is
Yeah,
done?
so I'll tell you what are all the things I have did. So step number 1. So we need at output, and we can able to only emit. So I have created an object for emitter. K2 is equal to new event emitter of, I'm going to pass the string, and please include an event emitter, import it. And in the function, whenever if you are clicking a button, the data needs to pass from child to parent. So this dot in my current object, I need to emit sending data to parent. This message needs to pass from my component 3 to 2. So here I have passed as K2 property. The same K2 property, whenever if you are clicking a button, this event gets arised. So the data will be passed from child to parent. In parent, I am capturing the data. Earlier, we used property binding. Now we used event binding. So where I'm going to bind, I'm going to bind from parent function. So event alone, it's not triggering. Then I can do simply with interpolation. What is that? Message from, what is the variable I used? Message from child. So whenever I load my component 2, so it will fetch the information from parent function. Parent function is nothing but it is retrieving the data. From the key, the respective event gets triggered, event binding. What's wrong in that? Or if I not pass, anyway, I need to pass the data, then only my event will be. Give me 1 minute time. Child function 1 sending to parent. Here everything is fine. I need to capture the same in my parent. Sprint. String is a primitive, but string is a wrapper object where using string is not possible. Can I convert everything to type? Check. My component 2.list prefer use string whenever it is possible. Go back to slide. Same thing I have handled. Instead of message, what will happen if I passed Right. I'll go for simple scenario. It's working. So we can take a break of 5-10 minutes. So after break, I'll explain you. It's working finally. I don't know how many of you have noticed the mistake which I have done and I have corrected. So from
It was a data type.
data type, yeah. So I didn't get striked on me on using any type. All right. So you can take a break of 5-10 minutes. Around 5:15, I will continue with this child to parent. You were with me when I typed the code, but that's fine. I'll explain once. I know it's a small message, but the data is passed from child to parent. Sending data to parent is a message which we got from child and it gets displayed on my parent component.
Recording stopped.
So let's continue our discussion after a break.